What is up, everyone? This is John with Archer Film. Since the movie Trap is coming out, the new film by M. Night Shyamalan, I decided I would do a little retrospective of his movies. I'm going to go through each one very briefly in case you haven't seen them, but M. Night Shyamalan has been one of the most exciting filmmakers since he burst onto the scene with The Sixth Sense. I'm not going to include his first two movies, Praying with Anger and Wide Awake, because mostly no one ever saw them. They're cute and charming. But right into The Sixth Sense, if you don't know the lore behind this movie, one of the things was him and his agent walked into the studio and he wrote like $1 million on a piece of paper. And he said, this is what I want for the script and to direct this film. They read it. They gave it to him. He made the movie, and the rest is film history. It did like $600 million or something worldwide. Casting Bruce Willis at this point in his career, I thought was inspiring. And it kind of set the tone for a lot of his future stuff. Very understated. And I think he'd go on to sort of pull from that experience in future performances, but it's very understated. Not only that, obviously, Haley Joel Osment, nominated for an Oscar for like his next couple of films. This kid killed it. And if you have read anything about the making of this movie, Haley Joel Osment took it so seriously that before some of his really intense scenes, he would throw himself against a wall to get worked up enough to do the scene. This kid is amazing. The reason I know this is because I went to a screening at Hollywood Forever of The Sixth Sense. It was like the 20-year anniversary, and it's in a graveyard where they did this screening. M. Night was there, and so was Haley Joel Osment, and he talked about this, and it was super impressive, and it comes across on screen. I think Michael Caine won that year, but I think Haley Joel Osment should have won. He also did AI with Steven Spielberg next, and again, should have won. He is just an incredible kid performer at this time. Also, Toni Collette breaks onto the scene in Muriel's Wedding, but in this, I think it kind of solidified her as such an incredible actress, especially in the horror genre. Obviously, she goes on to do Hereditary, and I think anchors that film. So anyway, Sixth Sense, big twist ending. It holds up to this day. Next, the heavily anticipated Unbreakable. Now, this didn't do well at the box office. It just kind of came because it was very secretive in its sort of marketing. But to me, this is also a masterpiece. I just watched it recently, and it is shot beautifully. The performances, again, are understated by Bruce Willis. Sam Jackson also kills it. And the meaning behind this one is even more impressive. It has such a solid theme, and it's about your purpose in life, and when you find your purpose, what that means to you, and also how you define other people by your own vision or, your own view of yourself. Unbreakable is such a solid film and a solid character study. Not to mention, it was like one of the first superhero origin stories, and it still holds up to this day. It's not big and crazy spectacle, but it is shot beautifully. The symmetry in the shots and the characters reflecting that they're mirror images of each other is fantastic. There's really quiet and unsettling moments when the little boy pulls the gun on his dad. I mean, there's just some great moments in this movie. Unbreakable, still a masterpiece. All right, then we move on to Signs. This is one of his funnest movies, in my opinion. I can watch this every year. It's such a fun sort of, fall movie to watch. Mel Gibson, again, he takes another actor who is known for one thing, and he gives such a great sort of understated performance in this. Not just Mel Gibson, but Joaquin Phoenix obviously is hilarious in this. Rory Culkin, Abigail Breslin, and all of the sort of the actors that he puts around them. Like, they're all hysterical. They just have great performances, great lines, and great presence. He just does so good. Cherry Jones, he just does so good populating his worlds with interesting characters. And The Signs is really fun. I could watch that every year. Like I said, it's just, it has a couple issues at the end, but there's enough scary moments in this, iconic moments, that this movie, again, it may not be a masterpiece, but it is so much fun to watch. And then we got The Village. Now, again, this is another one. It's so moody and entertaining, with such strong performances by Joaquin Phoenix, Dallas Bryce Howard, William Hurt, Sigourney Weaver, Jesse Eisenberg, Michael Pitt. I mean, the cast is insane in this. Judy Greer. It's very good. It's got some unexpectedly hilarious. Adrian Brody, hilarious moments. But it has this darker, sort of bleak feel to it. It's kind of a love story at the middle. I'm not going to give away the end if you haven't seen it, but it's a fun movie, and it has this trademark twist, and a lot of people were disappointed in it. And there's a couple things that, I didn't care for. But it's one of those movies that I can watch because it puts you into this world that, like, you don't want to leave from. And that's I think, kind of the point of that movie. But it's just fun because of that. It's very entertaining and moody. It's one of the perfect, like, fall, Halloween's around the corner movies to watch, I think. All right, next, I was really looking forward to this film. Based on this teaser alone, it's Lady in the Water. Fantastic. I mean, it's very short. The ending is a little abrupt and not as satisfying as all of his other movies leading up to this point. But it's got some great performances. Of course, Bryce Dallas Howard, Paul Giamatti, great supporting cast in this. Jeffrey Wright. It's such a fun little bedtime story with some great iconic moments that the trailer and the teaser kind of give away. But at the same time, like, there's something that kind of leaves you by the end. Some of the CGI isn't great. Some of the heavy-handedness isn't great with the movie critic. But it's a fun watch. I really liked it. It just doesn't have the scope of all the other ones, I guess. Now, this next film, and also there's a great book about the making of Lady in the Water called The Man Who Heard Voices, and it's all about M. Night and making of that movie, and it's fascinating. The DP in general is fascinating. The next movie, this one had a hard time getting made. I remember reading about this. This script was going around Hollywood, and nobody wanted it, which was odd because, up to that point, M. Night scripts had done, a couple $1 billion at the box office, so it was weird that nobody wanted it. Again, when you see it, you kind of realize why. Fox ended up making it. It is called The Happening, and I call it The Crappening. It is awful. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. By far, it's the worst M. Night movie. Mark Wahlberg, who otherwise is very entertaining and fun to watch, gives probably his worst performance ever. The "what? No" moment is just laughable. There's one decent scene, between the two main characters that's kind of charming and has some of that village charm. And there's a couple of, maybe one or two horrific moments when the people are falling off the building that has that trademark M. Night, this is a fucked up image and, scary, horrible moment. But other than that, it is a horrible waste of time. I wouldn't even recommend watching it except as a lesson that, at this point, like, M. Night probably was able to do anything he wanted, and there was no one checking him, and even though he says he rewrote that script 1 million times, it's just awful. Now, the next couple of movies, I'm just going to go through real quick because they were bad. The Last Airbender, I think I watched like 30 minutes. I don't even remember how much I watched, but it is awful, so I turned it off. After Earth, same thing. It's so bad that I just stopped watching it after a few minutes. You can tell, or at least I can, in the first few minutes, if the movie's going to be any good, and it was horrible. So I just skipped those. All right, next, a few years later, again, so After Earth was 2013. 3 years later, he did The Visit. Now, this was interesting because he teamed up with Blumhouse. It was like a $5 million budget, and it was a found footage horror movie. Kind of reinvigorates, how you feel about M. Night. It goes back to his sort of horror roots, and it's fun and scary, a couple unsettling moments, and it's just kind of creepy. And he'll go on to kind of repeat that later on in another movie, but it kind of put him back on the map. It was a low-budget movie. It did well at the box office. People were like, oh, yeah, M. Night's back. All right, next was Split. It's like he's given a little bit more money again, and he makes a really interesting, messed-up movie with an incredible performance by Anya Taylor-Joy and James McAvoy. I mean, obviously, they anchor it, and it's fantastic. And the ending, if you haven't already seen it, It's got a great ending, and yeah, so Split is very, very entertaining and fun. And again, you know, you feel like M. Night's back in his stride. Then he comes back with Glass, a very disappointing third act in his superhero trilogy. The character work was sloppy. It didn't follow any sort of recognizable hero's journey. It just seemed like all the elements were in place, but they were jumbled together. And again, I feel like, you know, nobody was keeping M. Night in check for this. And it feels that way. It feels like very disappointing. And I think most of the audience kind of agreed that all the pieces were there. He had such great potential, and for whatever reason, it just fails miserably as a story, as a character, and as the sort of climax to this trilogy. So again, disappointed in Glass. Once again, he turns around after that and makes Old. It didn't get a lot of attention, but I really enjoyed it. I thought there was some incredibly disturbing moments. And again, I don't want to get into it because, you know, no spoilers for this one, because it's one of the most interesting parts of the movie and horrific. But check out Old, because it's actually really fun and disturbing and just gives you the willies the whole time. But I like that one a lot. And then the next one was Knock at the Cabin Door. You know, this one was okay. You know, I didn't mind it. I kind of liked the sort of imagery. It was a little heavy-handed at times as far as what he was trying to say with it. You know, anytime you go biblical like this, you have a risk of becoming a little too preachy or heavy-handed, but it was okay. It's got a great cast. It's entertaining. I enjoyed it. At this point, I just want a well-told story that's entertaining, you know, and that's what it was. And then next up, we have his new movie that's coming out soon. It is Trap with Josh Hartnett. And it looks interesting. It looks, again, like a very unique take. You know, he described it as, Silence of the Lambs at a Taylor Swift concert. It's a very odd mix, an odd way to sell things. I hope it doesn't feel like The Happening all over again. Or something like Knock at the Cabin Door that, like, you know, it seems like, dude, how are you making this fresh? It just doesn't. I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm happy with Josh Hartnett coming out of the woodwork and being in a bunch of stuff lately. I've always liked him as an actor. So we will see how that one is. I'm looking forward to it. And that is it. That's my M. Night stuff. Now, I'm not getting into his producer work. He's produced a ton, including his daughter's movie, The Watchers, which I review on my channel. And also he produced Devil, which was actually pretty entertaining. The brothers that did that, they've done a lot of great stuff like Quarantine and As Above, So Below. But anyway, that is it from me and M. Night. And that is it from me and M. Night. I'll see you in the next video.